Maggie Beer is a national treasure. She devises recipes we all want to cook. She produces a food range we all want to eat. And now, at 70, she's revolutionising the lives of a generation we should all want to look after, senior Australians. She's also great fun.
Food gives me great pleasure and gives me great health. And that's what I want for everybody.
Now we'll pop it in the patty pan.
Now we're going to see how easy this is. And out of the oven come the others. Can I pass you one?
There's no one quite like Maggie Beer.
I love what I do. I have more ideas in my head than I can do in my lifetime.
I want it to
Award-winning cook, restaurateur, TV presenter, author and head of her own multi-million-dollar company. But that's not enough for this energetic 70-year-old.
When you have a platform and can see change happen, it's seductive.
Maggie's new mission is to revolutionise life for an entire generation of people.
I hope you like rhubarb, fresh from the garden.
Tonight, we travel to South Australia's beautiful Barossa Valley, Maggie's home, to discuss career highs, personal adversity.
That terrible thing in our lives, it's put me in good stead.
And making the most of this time in her life.
It's sort of the rest of my life stuff.
So now this is a fantasy for me, Maggie, because I'm standing in your kitchen and this kitchen is almost as familiar to me as my own. And this looks like the sort of kitchen where you can just go outside and pick dinner, really,
well,
which is lovely.
That's exactly what happens. I'm very lucky. I have space. I have a huge veggie garden and I have help in the garden.
Yeah, well, you have a very big garden. You would need help.
But every day, between eggs and a bit of Parmigiano and a good pantry and a garden, there's never a time, what am I going to have for dinner? I'm a picker.
I know, it's important. I've
got a taste.
Quality control. You grew up in a family where cooking was important. Did you imagine that you were going to do it for a living?
Oh, no. I had no idea I would do it for a living and, in fact, spent 20 years from 14 to 34 searching for what I wanted to do. I left school at 14 because my parents lost their business and helped to keep the family with my older brother. I thought I wanted to be a teacher actually at one stage, and my parents were dead against it because I had an amazing aunt, a spinster aunt, 6 foot tall and imperious, and my father couldn't bear the thought that I would be like that. But I thought law, I thought many things, but it meant going back to school to go to university, and I didn't have that drive.
I'm going to make this raspberry jelly, and so I'm using sparkling Shiraz.
So what led you into cooking, into where you are now?
Well, just a whole lot of happenstance, and that is meeting my husband Colin, whose family comes from nearby here, and coming to live in the Barossa after we married because he didn't like Sydney life and I was a Sydney girl. And that gave me everything.
Did you feel like you were at home from the minute you came here?
Absolutely. That's what has been so fantastic. I felt connected. I felt absolutely I was meant to be here. And it just has grown and grown and grown. I am part of it. It's part of me.
You mentioned that your parents lost their business. They went bankrupt. Did that early experience in your life make you gun-shy, if you like, in business? Did that change your approach to business?
No, it didn't. In fact, I've never been driven by money, and that was part of that whole thing that happened to the family. I've never been able to open bills, even now. So that sits with me. But I was a risk taker, and I married a risk taker. So it's always been about ideas, and the fact that when I was 14, I learned that you can do anything if you have to, and you just get on and do it.
It's obviously still driving you today, isn't it?
In a sense it is, but I have never ever made a decision based on money. But all my decisions are based on maximising what you have to hand, and because I'm a produce-driven cook, and I'm surrounded by beautiful fruit and vegetables and animals, but I have to use every part. It's part of not wasting anything. So in my way, of course it's affected me, but in mostly good ways, which is quite extraordinary.
In 20 years, Maggie Beer Products has become a hugely successful homegrown company, starting from an iconic pheasant pate served at the family's acclaimed restaurant.
It is phenomenal. It's sort of grown without me noticing, and we have about 100 staff. I drive all product development. I have a very small team, and it's so exciting when you can pull things off and pull them through, not just have an idea, but actually see it to its finality. That's pretty good.
How many products do you have now?
Oh.
Apart from the burnt fig ice cream, which is apparently incredible.
Yes, it has a cult following.
Yes.
Look, if I counted them up, including the seasonal kitchen at the farm shop, it's probably about 200. But there is the core, and the core are the pates, the paste, the verjuice and the ice creams, and the non-alcoholic sparkling. Anything to do with grapes, because we're serious grape growers. We're farmers. Grape growers, orchardists, olives, a lot.
And you want to get bigger, you're still expanding.
Expanding, yes. Expanding can make it feel as if I'm just going to get bigger and bigger. I'm not. But I want to do more with what we have. It's all about, I'm a control freak. No. I'm a control freak. So I will never let it get as big that I can't control the ethos, the philosophy, the ingredients, the ideas.
But it was in 2010, when Maggie was named Senior Australian of the Year, that her next project became clear.
Never underestimate the joy that cooking and sharing the table can bring.
In that year, I had 900 requests to speak. Didn't do them all, but I always thought about, can I make a difference if I speak? And one of them was to speak to 1,000 CEOs of aged care for the annual general conference in Hobart. So I did a lot of research to do a keynote speech. So I went to homes, I went to Meals on Wheels. I saw wonderful things and I saw terrible things. But that's what started it all. And once you see things that aren't right and you have the ability to change them, you have to. There's lots of wonderful things, but the terrible things are institutionalized food. We have to put more emphasis on the need for better budgets, but also better ways of thinking, better buying, using fresh ingredients, having people that are trained in the huge complexities. People are working so hard in aged care, but they're not always given the support of ideas and inspiration and easier ways of doing things. So the bad is something that you and I would never want to have, and nor would we want it of our parents or grandparents.
So supported by
The Maggie Beer Foundation was formed last year with an aim to reach all chefs in Australian retirement villages and nursing homes, giving them guidance on the nutritional needs of older Australians, ways to effectively cater for special dietary requirements, and recipes to achieve it all within budget.
I think everyone deserves to be eating good food, and a lot of these people come from homes where they've cooked, where they're very, from an environment where they've always eaten, and then suddenly go into this place which is totally unfamiliar to them. And I think food is the only thing which is familiar to them.
John Casey is the National Food Services Manager for Aveo, who run hundreds of aged care homes around the country. He says some food budgets are as low as $6 per person a day, and that's not the only challenge.
The stigma out there in the community, even with I suppose peers working in the industry, that it's a low-grade food. It's purees. I get a lot of people saying, "Am I still cooking purees on a plate?" But that's part of what I do. It's not all of what we cook, and I'm very passionate, whether it be a texture-modified food or whether it be a nice plated meal that we do in our restaurant facilities. So it's having that underlying, I suppose, standard that I expect into our villages.
No complaints, that's what we like to hear.
In June, John attended one of the Maggie Beer Foundation workshops, and the tips he picked up have already been implemented at the Melbourne village.
It's a really good food environment.
We've got food here like you just couldn't believe. The majority of nursing homes are quite, well, they're all right, I suppose, but the poorer ones, you know, the ones that don't have enough finance, they need more financing and more help as to how to serve the food that they're able to afford.
And this is Maria. Hello.
How has Maggie's work and Maggie's Foundation changed the way you cook here?
We use a lot more fresh produce and superfoods, for example rhubarb and kale, and we try and sneak the kale into soups and stuff so the residents, because they don't really like it.
I'm thinking they're not the kale generation. No. And have you noticed a difference in them, in their attitudes and their personalities?
Oh, absolutely. They're happier because they're putting on weight and, you know, they're just more alive.
Is it much more expensive to do what you're doing now?
Not really, because we're making everything fresh.
And it's very challenging for you, isn't it?
If you want critics, you come to a nursing home.
At the Abbeyfield Nursing Home in South Australia, the Maggie effect is contagious.
Do you taste it first?
And the residents themselves embrace the message, fresh is best.
It's all right.
Can you take it around Australia? Because I always think budget drives everything and aged care facilities are a business and the people who run them will be looking at the bottom line always, and fresh food is expensive.
I took recipes from 2 homes and I cooked their recipes in my way and I came in at the same price. Many of the homes are limited by having to use a centralised buying group run by the government. And of course they're price driven. So we have to get past we have to tackle the impediments on behalf of those who don't want to accept the lowest common denominator.
Can I pass you one?
You're not very much younger than a lot of the people who are living in these aged care facilities, and it needed someone like you to be their advocate, didn't it?
Well, I'm happy to be the advocate because I want to show that age should not be a negative. You know, when we talk about aged wine or aged cheddar, it's a positive. I want to turn it around. So it's a wonderful time of life if you have choices. Yes, there are many at the age of 70 that are in homes, but the ones that really worry me are the 85 to 95 that have had really hard lives. They've come through world wars and depression and they've never complained. And they're stoic and they deserve to be given pleasure.
Were you winking at me or you just shut one eye?